Number one, write this down. Peace is the result of being fastened to Jesus. God knows about you yesterday. He's here for you today, and He's already seen tomorrow. So peace is the result of being fastened to Jesus. Don't worry about tomorrow. He's already there. You want to be fastened to somebody like that. 1 Peter 5:6. Let's read it together. Here we go. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that He may exalt you in due time. Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you. Isn't that a great verse? Let's say that verse 7 again. Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you. Anybody here have any anxiety? Good. 3 of you are honest this morning. We got anxiety. It's a big part of our lives. Especially, come on, we are in some weird times right now. I have a habit in the morning. I turn on the news. I know I shouldn't, but I always do. And I have to pray before I do it, because I'm almost over the last few months with everything that's been going on with the elections, and then drawing a blank. What are they? Oh, the stimulus bill. They're calling it a stimulus. We'll call it that. And the billions and billions. What is it? $870 some odd billion this last one. And just the craziness that our country is in right now. And then globally, the craziness. And I'm almost afraid. What am I going to hear today? You know. And it's got that. And if I were looking to whoever, whether it's a president or an economy or a Congress or anything else, or even an employee or employer, to be my source of peace, can you see how you would just be up and down and everywhere because you're attached to that? And it's crazy times. Here it says, cast your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. And I get anxiety, like some of you. I get anxiety over what's going on in my own world, and I get anxiety over what's going on in some of your worlds too. We've got friends and family that are losing their jobs. Others that are having to move home with mom and dad. And I don't know if that's harder on the kids or if that's harder on mom and dad, but it's hard on both. And so we've got a lot of cause for being anxious right now. Some of you don't know if you're going to have a job next month. Your hours keep getting cut back. And there's a lot of reason, and we can give justification for saying, I have every cause to be anxious. And Jesus isn't saying, don't be anxious about it. He's saying, cast it on Him. Even in Philippians, when He says, be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication, He's saying, instead of just nursing and rehearsing your anxieties and the problems, instead cast them upon me. Why? And why is very important. Because He cares for you. I mean, I love having a friend that you can go and talk to and just release on. Any of you do that ever? Yeah? And just call and just, you know, give them a warning. Don't try to give me advice. I just want to on you. But see, God can not only be that person that we just cast it upon, but He can also be the one that reciprocated with something good to take its place. George Mueller, he was a wonderful Christian and gave his life for orphans. Made such a tremendous impact on the world. 19th century. He said this, and I love this statement. The beginning of anxiety is the end of faith, and the beginning of true faith is the end of anxiety. Things that make you go, George Mueller. Number 2, peace is the result of learning the art of living. You know there's a living or an art to living? And really without understanding how to do it right, a lot of times what we end up doing is just existing or enduring. Nobody wants to just endure life, right? There's a way to live life. There's an art to it. To living intentionally in your world. And this intentional living will result in peace. A long time ago, I read a report from Duke University. I shared this a number of years ago. I found it to be very interesting, and I want to share it with you this morning. We're not going to be long this morning, but I want to look at these things and make a few comments on their findings. And Duke University did a study on this, on peace of mind. And the title of it was Factors Found to Contribute Greatly to Emotional and Mental Stability. As they polled thousands and thousands of people, it was interesting because when I read the results of this, I found it's an absolute correlation with Scripture. And usually it takes secularists a while to come up with what the Bible has already declared, which is true. And here we see this. Number one, factors for peace. First thing that they found is that those who have peace, there is an absence of suspicion and resentment in their life. Nursing a grudge was a major factor in unhappiness. People who began to nurse the grudge or walk around suspicious always of other people's actions towards them. That was a reason to not have peace in their lives. I don't know if you remember the name Tracy Lippard. Tracy was a beauty queen in Virginia a few years ago. Shortly after she crowned her successor of Miss Virginia, she drove 250 miles to seek revenge on an ex-boyfriend for jilting her and marrying some other gal. She took along a pistol, a hammer, lighter fluid, and matches. Miss Virginia. She arrived at his house. She rang the doorbell. He didn't answer, but instead, his new father-in-law, the man's new father-in-law, answered the door. Tracy faked having car trouble, and so he followed her out to her car, and while she did, she took out the hammer and hit him in the head. The father-in-law, Miss Virginia. Well, what she didn't know is he was ex-Secret Service. And so it banged him, but he didn't go out, and he grabbed her, and she reached for the pistol, got the pistol, and all of a sudden his wife came out, and they wrestled her to the ground, and they sustained her there, or kept her there, until the police showed up and hauled her away. And this is what was amazing. When questioned later as to why she did this, she said that she was driven to seek revenge because she needed inner peace. Oh, those kind of women scare me. Just being honest. I think there's a better way to get inner peace than that. Nursing a grudge, suspicion, resentment towards other people, right? Not forgiving somebody. We've all heard it. We've talked about it in great detail. When you don't forgive, you're really hurting who? Yourself. Yeah, I mean, you're not making them lose sleep by the poison that you have inside your own heart. So we release and we forgive so that we can get peace. Second, very similar, is this: not living in the past. Not living in the past. This is an unwholesome preoccupation with old mistakes and failures in your life that lead to depression. Last week we talked about Jonah. You remember? God told him, I want you to go where? Nineveh. And preach against this city. Why? Because God had something He wanted to do there. Where did Jonah go? Tarshish. Right? He went, none of them went to Nineveh. So he went the other way, and he went through a world of trouble, right? Got spit up back on the shore. Now here's the fascinating thing, and I love this about God. Here's Jonah. He gets spit up by the whale. He's filled with all this stuff. And he's talking to God. And God doesn't ever bring it up again. You know? Even when he's messing up, and after he preaches, and then he goes up and he, sulks down, if you read the rest of the book of Jonah, and he's still depressed. Why? Because God sent revival to Nineveh, and he knew God would, because God's merciful. And he's ticked off at God because God took compassion on these people, and Jonah's having a pity party. God, even at that place, doesn't bring it up and say, Jonah, what part of the whale didn't you get? Do you need to learn this thing all over again? Can't you ever get it, Jonah? I mean, I put you in the belly of a fish. What's the matter with you? Now, see, that sounds like sometimes parents and teachers and coaches and authorities. But you know what? It never sounds like it. It doesn't sound like God at all. He never says to him, don't you remember how you mess